Oh, what the hell? Oh, I went to the... I'm sorry.
What, start the show off with a bang. Here we go. How's everyone doing?
I
Good.
don't understand what's going on. My bad, dude.
Today's show starts with a technical error.
That should work. I know.
All right, here we go. The big news today is that the House has passed a bill that would see TikTok banned in the U.S. or they would have to divest from foreign adversary ownership. It's resulted in a lot of contentious debate with many individuals on social media saying it's a trick so they can ban Rumble or X and give the president the authority to censor Americans. And I read the bill and I have no idea what any of these people are talking about. Out of context clips being posted on social media, snippets of the bill without any further reading, people completely ignoring the text of the attached USC. And I'm like, I kind of don't think anybody actually read this. I also think it's kind of strange that you had this big push in favor of banning TikTok because their algorithm is driving young people insane, provably. But now all of a sudden people are like, no, actually, I oppose this. And either they're just completely wrong or they're lying. Look, shout out. I like Thomas Massey. He's a good dude, but he's wrong. And I can't understand why he's going so heavily against this, sharing these out of context clips from the bill. I read the bill and he ignored a bunch of extremely important context about the argument that certain websites can be banned. It's ridiculously specific what the bill says, basically only banning TikTok and creating a ridiculously difficult path towards any kind of other censorship that would in no way actually reach Rumble, X, or any other platform. There is a potential circuitous argument they might, but we're going to pull up the bill and we're going to show you, and we're going to show you the attached United States Code, and we'll talk about it. You don't have to like it. That's fine. You can be in favor of TikTok. That's fine. I think it's important we actually know what the bill does before so many people jump to either supporting or opposing it. The other big news is that the judge in the Georgia case against Donald Trump has dismissed 6 of 47 charges. So I guess it's interesting news. I don't know how much it changes. Fani Willis will likely continue. And some people are saying this shows that he likely will not be dismissing her. So this will be interesting. And then, of course, there was a big story about an individual, a teenager who was non-binary, and the left said she was beaten to death for being trans or non-binary, and they blamed libs of TikTok. We now know that, sadly and unfortunately, this young teenager committed suicide. It was completely unrelated to any of these things as far as we know. And of course, that narrative was fake. So we're going to pull that up and talk about that. In the UK, they've banned puberty blockers. So we've got some big news. And we will jump into those stories. Before we get started, my friends, head over to castbrew.com to pick up your Cast Brew coffee. Ladies and gentlemen, Appalachian Night's back in stock. And we are working with our distributor to make sure we don't run out again because this stuff sells so quickly. Y'all love Appalachian Nights. I really do appreciate it. And then I will also mention that the Mr. Bokus Pumpkin Spice Experience, which there are currently just about 2,000 bags available. Once we sell out of those, they will be gone forever. So if you want to pick those up, they have a picture of Mr. Bokus. He passed just the other day. And so we will be discontinuing the Mr. Bokus Pumpkin Spice Experience, and we will be launching the Legend of Mr. Bokus in sometime in the future. But this will officially run the current bag. And then we'll make a new in memoriam bag for Mr. Bokus. You can also support Alex Stein's Primetime Grind. At the end of the month, we're going to go through all the sales. And Alex Stein's, he requested that his cut of all sales go to a cat charity. And so we will figure that one out. Shout out to Alex Stein. Hope all is well. Of course, go to timcast.com, click join us, become a member, because this show is made possible thanks in part to viewers like you. And when you buy Cast Brew Coffee, you're supporting our live in-person events. We're trying to set these up once a month. We had one just on March 5th in Martinsburg, West Virginia. We're hoping to have many more, as I said, once a month. And as a member at timcast.com, you will get access to the email invites when they go out. These are private events, not public events, because it's just our show and our studio. And so if you want to hang out, usually it's about 50 seats. That's what we did last time. But you got to be a member. You'll also get access to our Discord server to hang out with like-minded individuals, where you can listen to our members-only after show at 10 p.m. Don't forget to also smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with all your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and everything else is Jake Denton.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, my name's Jake Denton. I'm a research associate in the Tech Policy Center at the Heritage Foundation. So I cover everything from artificial intelligence policy to bills like this TikTok one.
Did you see that video from Figure One?
Is that the robotics company, correct?
Yeah, it's a robot, and they combined it with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And this is what people never thought this was going to happen. We always thought that AI was going to be like, hello, I can lift this for you. And they actually gave it a fake stutter. They gave the robot a fake stutter so that when the guy says, can you give me something to eat? He goes, yeah, actually. And it's like, oh, it's so creepy, but this will be fun. So
Yeah,
you happen to know a lot about this bill and what's going on social media. So perfect timing having you here. Should be a good time. We got Carter Banks hanging out.
What's up, guys? Carter Banks here. Make music here at Timcast. We're hanging out here, and we got Chris.
Hey, thanks. Chris Carr. I'm the executive editor at scnr.com. That's Scanner News. And thanks for having me back.
Right on. Yeah. Carter had a good joke insulting Chris Cuomo earlier. Maybe we'll get to that later. Patrick Bet-David hired Chris Cuomo. I am deeply disappointed. I think it's a huge mistake. We'll talk about that as well. Patrick Bet-David responded to me saying he trusts in capitalism, told me to keep kicking ass. He's a smart guy. He's a good guy. I really like the work he does, but I have no idea what he's doing, and we'll see. But anyway, Serge is pressing the buttons.
Yep. I'm here. What's up?
All right, let's jump into that first story from the New York Times. House passes bill to force TikTok sale from Chinese owner or ban the app. The legislation received wide bipartisan support, with both Republicans and Democrats showing an eagerness to appear tough on China. So it was, what did it bill? It passed 352 to 65, massively bipartisan. And what we're seeing right now is a divided punditry class on social media. I believe Sagar and Jetty had the best response to this. And he said, it's very simple. We are not allowed to do business in China. Why are they allowed to do business here? Simple question. He gave a much more deep and thorough explanation than just that, but I think he made probably the best point in all of this. However, what I see from most people, Tucker Carlson making the point that they could just ban anything. You've got Michael Tracy arguing that it could ban a website, a desktop application, mobile application, augmented or immersive technology. I got to tell you, this one really, really bothered me. By all means, if you think the bill should not pass because TikTok should be freely allowed to operate their algorithms in the United States, affecting the U.S. population, fine. That's your opinion. Say it. Great. I disagree. I think it is a serious issue when a foreign adversary, namely China, is manipulating the algorithm so the likes of Dylan Mulvaney become particularly prominent in American culture. Why would we allow a foreign adversary to dictate what we build in culture is insane to me. And as most of you know, I think culture, it's Andrew Breitbart said it, culture is, politics are downstream from culture. Nothing's more important. In terms of winning the political battle, you have to build the cultural base. And a Chinese application that not only is collecting our data, is going to deeply affect politics. Take a look at what just happened when they were proposing this bill. TikTok sent a notification to everyone saying, call your reps and stop them from doing this. That is an insane amount of power for a foreign adversary to have. Now imagine this. You get China about to invade Taiwan, and you have a bunch of politicians with varying opinions on it. Imagine there are many members of Congress who have publicly stated, we will not allow China to build military bases, invade Taiwan. So what happens? A week before Election Day, TikTok sends out a notification to only the people they believe will vote Democrat or in opposition and say, don't forget to vote. We learned that from Dr. Robert Epstein. So now, while many people are concerned about what this bill can do, I want to, we'll discuss it and break down what it can and cannot do. And the first thing I will say, many people are asking, why is it? Why now? Donald Trump wanted to ban TikTok. Most people agreed with it back then, and that bill was way worse. And now that there's actually something that's very narrow and limited moving through, for some reason, everyone on the right is saying, no, we shouldn't do this, even Donald Trump. The one thing I will say is that changed Israel. The catalyst for this, in my opinion, was that when woke garbage is appearing on TikTok and it's flooding the feeds of all these young people and literally driving them to self-harm, Tourette's, and suicide. It's psychotic. Instagram's no saint here either. Nobody cares. As soon as October 7th happens, TikTok begins showing prominently pro-Palestine content more so than pro-Israel content, resulting in a paranoid eruption from many politicians saying, whoa, this undermines American interests in the Middle East. Now, they want to ban or control the app. But Jake, I know you have a lot of understanding of this. So can you break down the gist of what the bill does? We can pull it up too and show people.
Absolutely. So I think the most important thing to understand right at the top is that this bill is about the conduct of ByteDance, not the content on TikTok. And so right off the rip, when this was announced, you had all sorts of corporate lobbyists coming out and saying this is a First Amendment violation. But there is no First Amendment protection for data harvesting operations that are sending data back to China and using it against the American people. And so this bill aims to address that phenomenon, not the content on the platform. And this is where it gets difficult. There's a million reasons to ban TikTok. This just happens to be about the data. And so this is the pathway they chose. And what the bill does is that it names 4 adversary states: Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran. Only apps within those countries that also pose a national security threat, that also look essentially just like TikTok, that is why they named TikTok, it's structured around TikTok, could ever be covered. And so you have all this misinformation floating around from corporate lobbyists that are trying to appeal to your emotions, right? Like, we all love Rumble, we all love X. So the first thing they claim is that this is going to be used to ban Rumble and X. And you're being sold a bill of goods, right? Like, they are trying to appeal to your emotion, trying to activate you against your congressional member to kill this thing. And it is not organic. There's a lot of money floating around. These are paid comments being made. And it is a Chinese influence operation from the top down. Like, what do you call sending push notifications to millions of devices with outright lies about the contents of the bill and asking them to call their member?
So this is what we saw from Thomas Massie. He grabbed a snippet of this, highlighted a single word, and tweeted out the image. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing tons of people being like, whoa, this bans websites. It bans websites where you can create an account, generate content, share content, create an account, view content, and it has to be from one of 4 countries. And that's basically saying, like TikTok.com, it doesn't ban you from viewing the website. It doesn't ban anyone from going to the website or using it. It restricts U.S. companies from providing hosting services to adversary apps. That means under this bill, what would happen is TikTok could still exist, but you'd have to download the app through the APK, and you'd have to jailbreak your iPhone. Now, certainly that does effectively ban it for most people who use iPhones, but you're still able to go to any website you want, even if it's run in China. The section that Thomas Massie posted, I'll read it for you. It says, the term foreign adversary controlled application means a website, desktop application, mobile application, or augmented or immersive technology application that is operated directly or indirectly, including through a parent company, subsidiary, or affiliate by A, any of 1, ByteDance Ltd, 2, TikTok, 3, a subsidiary or a successor to any entity identified in Clause 1 or 2 that is controlled by a foreign adversary, or an entity owned, controlled directly or indirectly by an entity identified in Clause 1 or 2, 3, or a covered company, B, a covered company that 1, is controlled by a foreign adversary, and 2, that is determined by the president to present a significant threat to the national security of the United States following the issuance of 1, a public notice proposing such determination, and 2, a public report to Congress submitted not less than 30 days before such determination, describing the specific national security concern involved and containing a classified annex and a description of what assets would need to be divested to execute a qualified divestiture. The important thing to understand here, the bill does not ban anything. It outright says you must divest. In the instance, the president says, hey, this website that allows people to create accounts, log in, post content, and other people to log in, post and view that content has investment from Iran. I hereby decree as a threat, you have to divest that. So what would happen? The app would not be banned. They would simply say, hey, this Iranian guy who owns $10 million in the app, he's got to sell that to someone else. Otherwise, the company can't operate here. It just ensures that there are American interests controlling the app. This doesn't mean that, a lot of people are like, this means the CIA will control them. Like the CIA could shut down Twitter or X right now, with or without this bill. So I don't even think this bill is particularly the most effective thing. Now, here's the important part that I think Thomas Massie should have included. Section 4, just below what I read, says the term foreign adversary country means a country specified in Section 4872D2 of Title 10 U.S. Code, which is specifically the Republic of North Korea, the Republic of China, Russian Federation, or the Islamic Republic of Iran. That's it. If there is a website, application, augmentive, whatever, blah, 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 that is controlled and operated by those 4 countries, by individuals working or companies from those countries or people working for those countries. They would have to divest that interest. Otherwise, companies in the United States would not be allowed to provide hosting services. The app still exists. The network still exists. Anyone can still use it. You can still go to all of the crazy Iranian social media websites you want without any limitation, except you can't download it on the App Store. That's what's happening.
So unless X or Rumble was basically controlled and operated in the DPR, Korea, or the Islamic state of Russia, then nothing would happen with that.
So the only, and I don't see this being a real issue, but like if a guy from China buys a bunch of public stock legally in the app, then they would go to them and say, hey, he has to sell that, I guess.
Well, what's interesting here is it's not even all applications coming from these countries. It's applications that also pose a national security threat. And when you really look at the App Store right now and you try and look at, what else could we add to this list? Maybe WeChat, Lemon8, a subsidiary of ByteDance anyways. Like, there really isn't much left. We already established prior to the show starting, like, you can't even go after Telegram with this. Like, that is one that they would all love to go after. And it's not even included in this. It's such a narrow frame.
And look, there's a super chat right here from Nick Terpetro, who says, Tim, I seldom disagree with you, but the vagueness of this bill is terrifying. It gives the president unilateral and plenary authority to ban any website or app they want. No, it doesn't. Look, man, it's mind blowing when I see so many people marching in lockstep believing something that is not correct. You can oppose the bill. You can say, I don't think we should force TikTok to divest. But the bill does not ban anything unless they refuse to divest from these countries or these individuals. Yeah. Which would mean Donald Trump or Joe Biden would have to come out and say, Rumble is being Rumble, specifically this individual within Rumble who has control in this way, receives funding in this way from this country. He needs to stop doing that. Otherwise, we will restrict it from being hosted in the United States. And then go, oh, okay, John, hey, that foreign agent contract you have, you got to stop. That's the first step. Right. It's got a judicial review section. Right of action, a petition for review challenging this act or any action finding a determination under this act may be filed only in the state's courts of D.C. And a lot of people are saying, aha, but D.C., that means it'll always go through because, Democrats and censorship or whatever. The United States Court of Appeals in the District of Columbia Circuit shall have exclusive jurisdiction over any challenge to the act, finding termination, et cetera, et cetera. Statute of limitations, a challenge may only be brought within 165 days. The most important thing to understand, this bill only bans things I can't think of the word. Banning is an action taken in the event divestiture does not happen. What the bill does is trigger a requirement for divestiture. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the FCC member, I think his name is Brendan Carr, he had a pretty good, thorough breakdown of this about it's explaining very clearly the hoops that have to be jumped through. It's really threading a needle, this legislation. But in terms of the people that are losing their minds over this, I mean, these people are just traumatized by federal government legislation being weaponized in the past, right? I understand there's probably some bad faith arguments, but there's also people like the libertarians, which I cover. I mean, they basically live with that trauma for a long time, so they see this and they're just triggered instantly, right? Which I kind of understand. I can sympathize with that, but it's not on the page.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I knew nothing about this until Tim explained that, and just listening to the last 3 minutes, there's so much criteria that would have to be met to qualify anything for this. It seems totally reasonable to me.
Yeah, and we all have PTSD of our government, running afoul and using these pieces of legislation with crazy names to, take away our rights. There isn't even a single mention of the individual within this bill. The Restrict Act got a ton of pushback because it could penalize an individual. It could give you a felony charge, all these different things. Individual isn't even mentioned in here. The only group penalized is a mega corporation.
So here's a tweet from Brendan Carr of the FCC. He says, it would be concerning to many if the bill allowed this, in reference to Tucker Carlson. It does not. The text is definitive on this point. The bill does not apply to just any social media platform. Far from it. Here is the only and targeted application. 1. If you're an individual user, the bill confers zero authority to the government over you. 2. The bill only applies to applications controlled by one of 4 foreign adversary governments previously codified in law by Congress: China, Iran, North Korea, or Russia. An act of Congress would be required to change that. The bill is clear that it is not enough to merely have operations there or do business there. It must be controlled by one of those 4 governments. 3, even then, the bill only applies if the application presents a demonstrated and significant threat to national security. Control by one of the foreign governments alone isn't even enough under the bill. And then only after public process provided and Congress reported to with a description of the specific national security threat. Now, that number 4 doesn't mean much to me. If a president wanted to make an argument for a threat, he's going to make his argument and Congress is going to go, oh, well, okay, then. So that doesn't mean a whole lot. He says every single one of those hoops and more must be cleared and met. So it is very narrow. It confers no authority to go after any other application, even if someone were to allege that it engaged in election interference. So in the event X or Rumble was accused of, like, say, by Ocasio-Cortez to Joe Biden of interference, then he's going to say, what interest does this app have in one of these 4 nations? And if so, what threat does this app pose to our national security? And if so, then we'll start by asking them to divest from that individual or country.
Yeah. I mean, really think about what we know about ByteDance has originated entirely from leaked internal documents that have been given to journalists at Forbes. Like, we really don't even know a whole lot about this company. We know a whole lot about X and Rumble, right? They're American companies. Rumble is publicly traded. X was formerly publicly traded. They have a lot of reporting requirements. Americans are loudmouths, right? We talk about everything. We would know if these companies were compromised. It would be a very clear paper trail. There's just no pathway to this. And that's why this is so frustrating. It's like we're talking in circles.
Let's start with this question. Should a foreign country have the right to dictate to 170 million people in this country? Now, how many are actually active young people on the platform? But to millions of people in this country, what is culturally relevant?
Absolutely
Should the
not.
United States allow the Communist Party of China to set the standard for content in the United States for its young generation? Guys, to all of these people who are saying like this bill is bad, I wonder how many of these exact same people have spammed the Yuri Bezmenov video about communists trying to infiltrate the country to infect the minds of our youth. And then we see on TikTok, what do you get? Dylan Mulvaney, the easiest example, because so many people are so concerned about how this unwell individual generates 10 million plus followers. They're intentionally jamming this stuff in the face of our young people to cause them self-harm. Now, what happens? Donald Trump says, we got to shut this down. It's one of the most egregious censors. It is one of the most notorious woke applications. And Trump says, let's stop this because they're tipping the scales against us. Democrats don't care. They say, no, we won't do it. And for sure, what came out of that was not good. Then Israel-Palestine happens. And all of a sudden, you've got a bunch of politicians being like, wait. China is showing, I think it's 10 times more content of Palestine as the victims relative to Israel. I'm not here to make an argument for either of these countries. Because of that, now you get members of Congress saying, okay, now we finally agree. We want to make a move against this app. They cite data capture as an issue. And that is a serious issue because it allows, seriously, the Communist Party of China to determine who votes and who doesn't vote. If you thought it was bad that Mark Zuckerberg put $500 million into elections, that Mark Zuckerberg can send out, and Dr. Robert Epstein told us, 100 in their test jurisdiction, when they're tracking election manipulation, 100% of Democrats got a reminder to go vote. And only, I think he said 59% of Republicans got one. That is how you rig an election. That's bad. I think we should have legislation or something to stop Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X, anybody, Rumble, from doing things like that. Why would we just be like, but it's okay that China does it? All I can say is, baby steps, I guess. I don't see how this bill could be done in literally any other way. Seriously, unless it just outright said like, for the purpose of this bill, TikTok is not allowed to operate in this country. The crazy thing is the bill is not even that authoritarian. It allows TikTok just to sell off its Chinese stake, and then it can keep operating like normal. It's actually kind of weak.
Yeah, well, you think about how nice of a gesture this is for a country that has been collecting troves of data, who has been surveilling American journalists, tracing down their sources inside of China and harassing them, right. Sending blackout challenge videos to 12-year-olds, encouraging them to kill themselves, encouraging young girls to become anorexic, posting all of this, vile content that we're taking in every single day, and we're still allowing them to profit off of it.
Let's answer this question.
Yeah.
So, because people are really trying to understand this, and I think what's happening is a lot of people are hearing talking points from social media pundits who did not read the bill. So Nick Terpstra, says, Tim, what does this mean then? Quote, a social media company that is controlled by a foreign adversary and has been determined by the president to present a significant threat to national security. Sure. It means it's a social media app that is controlled by North Korea, China, Iran, or Russia. The president must determine it's a national security threat, provide a report to Congress, and then if this enforcement action moves forward, said social media app, unfortunately, must sell off the portion of its company or divest from these foreign nations. It doesn't even ban them.
Only if they don't do it.
So TikTok, a portion of it is owned by China. When you operate a company in China, you have to be under the Communist Party. They would never allow the U.S. to do that in their country, and they have, I believe, a board seat. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, 1% ownership stake and a board seat.
And so this bill is basically like, hey, TikTok, that 1% stake has to be sold off, and that guy can't be on the board. That's what the bill says. That's it. And for all other apps, it would mean that in the event a social media app, website, destination, etc., that it has to meet all the criteria of a social media platform, meaning I believe it has to have more than 1 million users.
It does, yeah.
You have to be able to log in. You have to be able to post content. The content has to be shared by the platform to other users who get to log into and view it. Very specific. In that circumstance, if a percentage of the company is owned or controlled by individuals in one of 4 countries, the president can submit a report demanding that they divest from that country. That's it.
Right.
That's it.
So they're just saying like you could still turn TikTok into you're constantly spamming all this stuff, but you just can't do it to people personalized once they log in.
No,
unless you give up the one Communist Party seat that's in this company right now in China. Also,
it's kind of wild that, you know, when Tom Cotton was interviewing the CEO of TikTok, he asked him very good questions. Have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? He's like, no, I'm from Singapore. Have you ever served or worked with? No, I'm from Singapore. Oh, geez, I can't believe I'm being asked these questions. That guy led investment rounds for many Chinese-owned companies. So it's a good question to ask. And then you get a bunch of young leftists being like, Tom Cotton is so stupid. Why would he ask such a dumb question? If this bill passes, and it likely will, what is likely going to happen, or I should say, I don't know if it'll happen because TikTok is saying they won't do it. Right.
Yeah, they're saying they're not going to divest, which, you know, you got to just see it through. We won't know until it's on.
So think about this. TikTok, with all of its claims about how big its platform is, and I don't know if I believe their claims, in my personal opinion, it seems fishy to me that TikTok would have as many users as they claim to have. They would be willing to shut their company down in the United States instead of selling off a 1% stake. That makes no sense.
Well, you know, it would be like $100 billion transfer if they sold to a U.S. company, like proper divestment. This is a massive sale. And that's when a lot of the speculation has been floating around of like, who's going to buy it? There's plenty of bidders out there. Yeah, well, it's like even Sam Altman has, you know, name has been thrown out for this. But, you know, it really begs the question of like, what is there that you're not comfortable divesting from? It is not the monetary value. It is the access to the American people. It becomes very clear that that is what they are trying desperately to hold on to. It's the ability to send you a push notification.
I'm not a hardcore libertarian where I'd sit back and be like, I think it's perfect. I can't imagine why someone would think it's perfectly acceptable that China can manipulate and interfere in our elections directly. And I've heard every argument about, Facebook and Twitter were interfering and Russia was interfering. Russia posting memes, spare me. China having a board seat and control of an app that is pushing the likes of Dylan Mulvaney on the young generation. Okay, fine. You think this bill is bad? I still think we need to take action to limit TikTok or have it divest from the Chinese Communist Party. But if look, this is the issue I take with most of the libertarians is that they're like, yes, the communists are crossing the southern border and Yuri Bezmenov was right. They're trying to overthrow American institutions, but we should not take enforcement action against them because of free speech.
Or TikTok isn't breaking the NAP, non-aggression principle. So, and there's open border libertarians that will probably make that argument, oddly enough.
Yeah. So all I can say is this. You're allowed to not agree with this bill. We don't have to see eye to eye. But I can tell you that 99% of the pundits on social media that are sharing clips from like snippets from this haven't read it.
Yeah.
Because when they're saying things like it could ban a website, I'm like, no. It can ban a website run directly by the government of one of 4 countries. And if like a North Korean guy somehow got a website from his country, that a social media platform, and with 1 million users,
They
this
would
is
come
the
find him
craziest
first.
thing.
There's no way.
I just the absurdity of what people are saying is the president could ban any website that's based in Iran that is a social media platform with more than 1 million users. And I'm like,
If they don't divest.
Yeah.
if they don't divest. It's very strange to me to see so many high profile people attacking this, and it makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, I think, corporate interest in DC is very compelling. A lot of money is flowing. And those people who we view as, great stewards of our message in many instances can be swayed by these things. And, it's a shame that it is that way. I think, you look at the big tech legislation that we've tried to pass over the last 10 years, every single bill fails, right? Like, it is not just TikTok. It is every company. They come to DC and they make all these big spends. But this is the right thing to do. This is for the American people. It makes us safer. It makes your son and daughter's data safe and secure in the States. And that is really what this is about. It's about, basically putting America first and ensuring that we're not digitally vulnerable to our foremost adversary.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, I even though they failed the reading test, I do tend to sympathize with these people that see a bipartisan piece of legislation with this much support and they just start seething, and they probably can't even read straight. Their vision's getting blurry because they're seeing this happen. And, like I said earlier, but yeah, you guys are making a good point. I follow it.
I think it's going to pass.
Yeah.
Biden said he'll sign it.
Yeah. I think there's a very clear pathway at this point. Unfortunately, it looks like the Democrats will likely get the victory out of this. And I think this is a Republican issue. I think this is something that we took the lead on. The Trump executive order set the tone here. The Heritage Foundation, where I work, we were sounding the alarm well before the Trump executive order. As early as 2018, we were making waves about this. This should have been a Republican victory, and we are just giving it to the Democrats. That's unfortunate, but it's the reality, and it doesn't mean we shouldn't pass this. It is a win for the American people at the end of the day.
Well, we'll see, but let's jump to some of the other big news of the day. We have this one from the Washington Post. Georgia judge dismisses 6 charges in Trump election interference case. He now faces 10 charges instead of 13. He is still accused of criminally conspiring to try to overturn the 2020 presidential election. This is interesting. So I think, it dismissed 6 of the 41 counts in the indictment against Trump and his allies from 47 to 41. And I think the principle, the main dismissal here is that phone call where he said, find me the votes.
Yeah.
The left came out and the Democrats, they were like, find me. He's saying to make them. And I was like, or he's saying count the votes and recount them and figure out what happened or what's going on. It's just that simple. But a lot of people are saying that this is an indication that he's not going to dismiss Fani Willis. And so it's big news. I don't know what there is to really say about it other than we get what's going on in this country. Country's being ripped apart. I do actually, throwing it back to the previous segment, I think it's funny that we have a bipartisan effort in this TikTok divestment bill. Why would anyone in this country actually find common ground on something is very strange, especially when stuff like this is happening.
Yeah, it's a total sham show trial that they're just targeting our leader, right? It's clear as day at this point. There is really no merit to the case. They are making one out of thin air, and they're trying to drain resources.
Did you see the Robert Hur testimony?
Just snippets. Obviously, it was more TikTok related this today.
Right. Yeah, and so seeing this, we had Kurt Mills on the show yesterday, and in the members only, we argued a bit. I just feel like Republicans do absolutely nothing. And someone commented, Republicans hold office, Democrats hold power. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. That's exactly what's going on. The challenge, I guess, is when Kurt and I were discussing the issue of abortion on the members only show, his attitude was very much political victories are more important than moral victories. And so what I see with the Republican Party is a bunch of conservative morals wearing a moderate mask to try and convince people they're moderates. And I'm just confused by that. I'm confused. With Donald Trump and the MAGA party, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene have no problem telling you what their morals are. They will strongly stand by them. They'll say, no, abortion is bad. I don't care. But then there are a lot of people in the Republican Party who play the game of trying to be friends with Democrats who despise and hate them and will criminally charge them in 2 seconds, lock them in gulags. But they're trying to win by masking their morals and not making an argument for why their morals are right.
Yeah.
How is there supposed to be any right-wing victory ever if there's quite literally just a center and a left arguing over what to do?
Yeah, well, it's like we're scared to own that we're conservative, right? You walk around town and everyone wants to still be invited to the party. They like to play nice, so they get to go to the nice, fancy fundraisers. And that really just hurts the middle Americans, right? That are actually sending these representatives there to get legislation across the finish line, and it never materializes. And we get these like political victories that are like signaling bills and they change a couple of words. But when morale is so low in this country, when the former president is on trial, you need moral victories, right? You need morale to be boosted across the country, or else people don't go out to the ballot box, right? Like you actually have to show that things are getting better. Ride the metro, right? Like it is an absolute mess in this country. You can't walk downtown. You got, our daughters you send off to college and they never come home. Who is going to the ballot box, right? Like that is really where things start to hit the fan. And like we have to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, when will you get the morale lift? Because it doesn't come from these little political bills.
Right.
I see with when the George Floyd incident happened, a bunch of conservatives came out and they were like, wow, this is really bad. We're here. We stand with the left. And then once things started to become clear, many of them were like, okay, wait a minute. Something else is going on here. But then the Ahmaud Arbery thing happened. And a whole bunch of conservatives went, see, this proves we're not racist. And I was like, why are you trying to prove to communists that you're not racist instead of standing on your morals and telling them to shut up? So you got all these people in the middle of the road and they have only one moral framework being argued to them. It's leftist. Many people on the right are saying are refusing to engage because they're like, but then I won't get any votes. And I'm like, okay, well, then the run-of-the-mill individual in this country does not hear the moral argument at all and can't even agree with it because they don't know it exists. So if your position is that abortion is bad and should be outlawed completely, but you feel like I would never win if I said that, so you only ever argue it should be restricted, great. The average person hears two arguments, unrestricted and lightly restricted. And then no one has ever made the point to them, maybe we shouldn't allow it at all. This is what we end up seeing with the criminal charges against Trump. Why don't Republicans criminally charge Joe Biden? Well, because it could be bad for them and they might not win an election and it's more important to win the election. And I'm like, maybe for the average person in this country, they need to see Joe Biden put in cuffs so they can be convinced he's done things wrong. And so long as Republicans keep saying, no, don't do that, otherwise we won't win, then the American people just see Donald Trump being arrested and think he must be guilty, and Joe Biden doesn't. He must be innocent.
Yep. Right. It's like the left is always appealing to emotions, and I feel like the Republicans are trying not to do that, but there is kind of like a fine. There's a middle ground where you kind of have to do that at some point. Like it's not always the best to not just use logic and reasoning to get to people, but you have to in this case. I feel like.
Well, it's like we had all these promises of these impeachment trials and these investigations. And, we've done a lot of investigations, but where are the impeachment trials? Now, suddenly we're, months away from election day and we have like a 1-seat majority due to all these like sudden retirements. And so we just totally piss away everything we worked for. And now we don't even have a pathway to materialize any of these things. So you campaign and then you just go, well, we'll get them next time, right? And it's like at a certain point, people stop believing there's going to be a next time. And that is kind of where we're at. Like morale is very low. We do not think things are going to get better. And there needs to be a figurehead, a leader that is going to pull us out of it. It's Trump. And that's why they're going after him.
That's why I feel like the end result of all of this is just things get bad. To what degree, I don't know, but that's why I'm always saying I think culture is substantially more important. That's why TikTok is so dangerous. It completely undermines cultural efforts from those opposing the woke machine, and it's foreign controlled. So you can't even do proper FOIA requests against them to figure out what's going on. Like you're ever gonna get, with. Let me say this: if TikTok is forced to divest, and they actually do, and you get Rumble or some American interest buying it, imagine the emails that get released. You thought the Twitter files were wild? Wait for the TikTok files. Oh, man. Force them to divest so that we get an American company. And you know what? The funny thing is, you'll get Democrats on board with it. You know why? Because it's going to show the Chinese Communist Party saying things like, we want to manipulate, we want to interfere. And even Democrats are going to be like, we're going to earn brownie points with this. Publish it.
Yeah. Or you'll find out that what you were thinking about the potentially not realness of all these people.
Oh, yeah.
That could be a thing.
Yeah. Well, what's really interesting here is just like the Facebook files and the Twitter files, there are likely TikTok files where the White House was in active communication with a Chinese-owned enterprise like TikTok on the basis of content moderation. You look back a couple of Earth days ago, and the TikTok app actually banned climate denialism. And it totally stopped any of the messaging on banning TikTok in the States. And that is a concession, right? You look at the fact pattern of the Facebook files and the Twitter files, it stopped all criticisms of the content moderation regime. They did the exact same playbook, and suddenly TikTok is like in clean, totally good standing. And then it takes, a crisis to basically bring it back into question. And that is where we're at. And there are definitely interesting skeletons to be unearthed in the case of a divestment.
I actually think, just to bring these stories together, the TikTok thing is a really great example of why there is no real right wing in this country. There is no organized, unified structure sharing an ideology that wants to accomplish anything. Doesn't exist. The left has it. AOC will say whatever they tell her to say. I mean, she just wants to be there. So Democrats there's a viral video of these two young girls being interviewed, and they're asked how many genders there are. One girl starts answering, the other girl says, no, stop, don't say that on camera. Maybe it's fake, I don't know. But those things certainly are real, and I've experienced one of them too. Like, it happened to me when a woman was speaking to me on camera and then tried to get me to delete delete that. You can't show that. They are terrified to oppose the machine. On the right, it's just infighting all day, every day, nonstop. And I'm sitting here wondering why we can't get criminal charges on Joe Biden, despite knowing for a fact he committed a crime. All elements of the crime were met. And he expressed intent and expressed his desire for financial gain from taking the documents and sharing them, which is an additional crime. No charges, none. And what's the argument for it? That we don't want to charge Biden because then he might win in November. And I'm like, Democrats literally go around mercilessly beating people. And I don't mean like Nancy Pelosi. I mean like progressive left aligned and Democrat aligned nonprofits and activists will go out and they'll beat people while advocating for Joe Biden. When you had people protesting in front of a hospital, protesting masks, Antifa showed up and beat the crap out of them and got into a fight. And it's like they are willing to fight and beat people for this. And Republicans are like, don't tell anyone your opinion. Otherwise, they might vote the other way. My question to all the Republicans who think you shouldn't express your direct opinion, and I don't think it's this audience for the most part. My question is, why do you think it is the average person disagrees with your worldview? Do you think you are wrong? Is the reason why you're unwilling to criminally charge Joe Biden out of fear that you're wrong to do so? If you are right and you are justified, it should be easy to explain why you're right and you're justified in doing it. Yet for some reason, it doesn't happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting. You're always told in DC, this just isn't the right time. You have this perfect bill, but, just give us a couple more months. The political climate will be better. It'll pass with flying colors. And it's like the exact same fact pattern here with the Biden trials. You get all this great evidence and just give us one more month.
Just wait long enough till it's not relevant anymore.
We'll strike when it's right. And then it just never happens. And now we're at the end of this Congress. It's coming to a close. They're all going to leave to go campaign. Nothing really is going to happen until Election Day. And we didn't get anything. And so, what compels you to go vote again? If the time is never right, we had the majority, now we have one seat left. When are you ever going to actually get a win? And it's not clear. Even if Donald Trump wins in November, and when you look at the congressional general ballot polling, it's looking favorable for Republicans. But Trump might win, and you still might lose Congress. Because what could happen is, a lot of people say, Joe Biden, now I'm voting for Donald Trump. But I don't like Republicans, so I'm going to vote for the Democrat in my district because he seems like a nice guy. Then you end up with Trump, who can't do anything. They impeach him again instantly. They declare him an insurrectionist, and they will do everything. It's wild that Democrats can have... Republicans had the same majority as Democrats did when they won in 2022, and they did nothing. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Democrats impeached Trump twice. Yeah. That's wild. All right, well, let's jump to some cultural news. We have this from Valuetainment. This one I found to be completely shocking when the news broke a couple hours ago. Chris Cuomo joins Valuetainment. This is Patrick Bet-David's show, and he hired Chris Cuomo. And I don't know why. And it's a shocking move. And I'm seeing a lot of people now, we even got some super chats already for people calling for the boycott of Patrick Bet-David's show over this.
I don't know about that. I mean, maybe I wouldn't watch if Chris Cuomo was on it, but that's mostly because he's not entertaining to watch. Perhaps their numbers were good. I really doubt it. I do not understand the move in bringing on this piece of human garbage into valuetainment. I like Patrick Bet-David. He's a smart guy. He's a good guy. He got a standing ovation. He lit the crowd up at our Miami event with his passion speech about, Christians, you got to stop tolerating evil and letting these people do what they want. And then he hires Chris Cuomo. So I'll tell you my thoughts on this before I show you, the response from Patrick Bet-David. Chris Cuomo helped defend his brother Andrew, and when Andrew Cuomo ordered that confirmed COVID patients be placed in nursing homes could not turn them away. This is estimated to have resulted in, I don't like Letitia James, so let's argue from the low end, 8,500 individuals up to the high end of 15,000. Letitia James led the investigation into Andrew Cuomo and found that his orders killed up to 15. She said 15,000. I believe that was her report. Now, Cuomo argues it was guidance from the Trump administration, but even PolitiFact says that is not true. The reality is Cuomo likely did not want to give Trump a victory, so he ordered these people into the nursing home, ordered the nursing homes not to turn them away, and killed 15,000 people. Maybe 8,500, but if you believe Letitia James, 15,000. He was going on Chris Cuomo, his brother's show, in a direct conflict of interest, and they were making jokes and laughing, while Chris Cuomo said, one, protests don't need to be peaceful, defending violent riots sweeping across this country. Chris Cuomo advocated for the stripping of your rights and freedoms. And then Chris Cuomo pretended to be in quarantine, went out to his property with his family, got confronted by a guy who said, aren't you supposed to be in quarantine? Cuomo then went on his radio show on Sirius XM and said, why do I got to deal with this guy coming up to me and saying these things, confirming it happened. And then 1 week later on CNN, he goes, it's official. Here it is. I get to leave my basement. The dude is a duplicitous liar who has no following, who generates nothing, who lies, who advocates against the rights of the American people and the world, who opposes your rights to medical freedom. And for some reason, I have no idea why, Patrick Bet-David, Valuetainment said, we're going to hire this guy.
Well, I'd like to turn this black pill into a white pill if I can. Okay, I think this problem is going to sort itself out, and it's going to happen really fast because, so he doesn't have an audience. I'm not convinced that he has an audience to speak of. We were going through his Twitter. There's nobody there. But the people, if he does have an audience, it's the lazy corporatists that slop on. They still pay for cable, and they slop on CNN, and they're like, oh, yeah, Cuomo's on. I guess I'll watch him. They're not going to follow Chris Cuomo to wherever he is. So I think the numbers... Patrick Bet-David says he believes capitalism. I think it's gonna play out just fine.
It's kind of weird though, because other than music stuff, I watch a lot of law and crime, and I started seeing Cuomo pop up on News Nation one day. I'm like, okay, he's trying to reinvent himself, just using his law degree as an attorney. 100%. Maybe this is going to be mostly factual based arguments and stuff. But then, as I watched News Nation, I'm like, I don't actually think that person's guilty, and they're all jumping to obvious conclusions. This is the CNN of law and crime news. And it's so weird because
News Nation is?
Well, to me, yeah. Like I used to watch them a lot, and I'm like, this is they're saying this guy's guilty. They're releasing fake things of evidence and stuff that they're later retracting, and it's just that's par for the course for like a Cuomo place. So it's scary.
Maybe X is not a good indicator of audience, but like here's from March 10th, Chris Cuomo with 1 retweet. Here's one with 9 retweets. Here's one with 2 retweets, 6 retweets, 1, 14. I'll tell you what Chris Cuomo is. He's propped up by CNN. He has no following. He's not, if he put on a show and said, I'll be at a coffee shop, nobody would show up. Literally no one would show up. If he was like, hey, I'm going to be at this local coffee shop, hanging out, come hang out. Nobody shows up. Maybe one guy passes by and says, oh, yeah, I saw Twitter. Oh, that's cool. Anyway, see you later. He can't sell out a venue. I don't understand the move and why it's being made. So anyway, Patrick Bet-David responded to me saying, Tim, I trust capitalism. One of these days, the market will wake up and realize what our vision was all along. I'm extremely comfortable being misunderstood before the market validates our vision. I respect your impatience with our vision. In the meantime, keep kicking ass. I like the guy. He's a very smart guy. He's a very good guy. But this is a mistake. This is unquestionably a mistake. His argument is that Cuomo brings in another side. The argument, I guess, is that Cuomo represents the Democrat voter and they want to reach those people. But he doesn't. Nobody watches Cuomo. What are his ratings on News Nation? Like 10K? if that.
Yeah. Well, I think, you made an interesting point there of like, will his audience even follow him? What audience does he have? The audience didn't follow him once he left CNN and, it just continues to fall off. And now he's at this new home. And in theory, he's bringing in this new side, but like really there's nothing left. And I really don't know why we're participating in this like brand rehabilitation for such a sick, horrible person. That was part of, as you mentioned, this horrible crisis in New York, this cover up.
I mean, he's evil.
Yeah. Horrible.
This is not a question of like, I disagree with this man. No, this is an evil guy. He was saying you should be locked in your house. You should be forced to be vaccinated. You should be forced to be masked. Violent riots are a good thing. He's the reason why we got that viral video where the kid was eating the ramen, who said it's right there in the First Amendment. He says, who says protests have to be peaceful?
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, it's right there in the First Amendment, peaceably assemble. This is a guy who propagandized for his brother who murdered people. This is a guy who advocated you should have no rights. And it's a guy who lied to your face and pretended to be under quarantine to advocate for authoritarian lockdowns. He should be, he look, by all means, interview the guy, but hiring him?
Yeah, it's crazy. It makes you really wonder what this vision is that he's mentioning, right?
What role is he going to play at
Talent roster.
Oh.
Talent roster. That's
Talent
hilarious.
roster.
Well, no, like he's in the rotating group of talent. So he'll be appearing on the show periodically. I don't see. Yeah, I don't see it.
No.
PBD goes CNN. Congratulations, I guess.
He's got to elaborate on his vision, I guess.
I'm trying to think of like a positive to bring to this, but it's very difficult.
It won't last. There's no way it's going to last.
I can't imagine it
yeah,
will.
So, yeah, this is going to sort itself out.
Well, there are already people saying boycott PBD. He's got a big show. He's got one of the biggest shows in the world with Valuetainment. But I can't quite understand a move like this. Is it just...
An interview would have been cool.
They did an interview.
They did
a couple.
I know he's been doing the interview rounds, but...
I noticed that, too. Strange.
Did you guys watch the Tucker Carlson Cuomo thing?
I haven't.
Just the highlights.
Clips,
Yeah, I've not seen it either. Probably should watch it because I don't know whether or not he's ever been challenged on faking quarantine. I'd be willing to bet that whenever he's booked, he's like, don't bring up quarantine.
I think I saw a clip where Tucker kind of brings it up in passing, but all the clips that I saw, they're just like yucking it up and having a good time and kind of ribbing each other. Like it didn't seem like a legitimate, like I'm going to hold you to questions. I'm going to talk to you about having your bloodthirsty brother on air and then joking with him with prop humor. Remember how he had the
Big
giant...
Q-tips.
Just indefensible.
Yeah. The clip I saw from Tucker was Cuomo asked him, like, what issue did you take with my positions? And Tucker was like, medical freedom. And I was like, oh, mine was your brother murdered people and you helped cover it up. And, like you lied about being in quarantine.
Did he ever apologize for that or take responsibility?
People like Chris Cuomo don't apologize. They don't apologize.
Andrew Cuomo blamed Trump, saying it was Trump's guidelines to do this. It was a bunch of Democrat governors who murdered a bunch of people during COVID. And I think the worrying thing to me is that people are forgetting. They're forgetting just how bad things really were.
And they want to. And I can understand wanting to.
Yeah, that's true.
It's that like memory hole effect, right? Like everyone always talks about it. Where did the X incident disappear to? And they happen almost, it feels like on a weekly basis now.
I remember waking up in the morning and watching Trump give, because he was the president at the time, and I would basically live to listen to what was going on. And then they just stopped covering him one day. And then all you had left was Cuomo. And they would start out with the death count. And now I'm forced to get my information from Andrew Cuomo.
The death count, man, it's so wild. CNN had a side of the screen dedicated to showing you death.
Stay inside, because here's why.
Yeah.
If you want a really bizarre experience, check out Tom Woods' new book. It came out a few months ago, and Tom Woods was debunking this in real time with his newsletters, starting in March of 2020. And this book is just 400-page compendium of all of his newsletters, and it takes you through. And as I was reading, I was just like, God, I had memories that were just unlocking, but he was, at least one person was keeping track.
That's good.
And it's really fascinating to see what we all went through and where we're at now.
Isn't it crazy that it's 2024?
Yeah, I don't believe it.
Wow.
Can't accept it.
Man. The crazy thing is I was reading a segment because, I guess the other big news is that Trump is the official nominee now. He got the delegates. And so the RNC will come and then they'll officially announce it, but he's got the delegates. And they're talking about how Gen Z is has the highest Trump favorability. The craziest thing. Gen Z, of all age demographics, has the highest rate of support for Donald Trump. 64%.
Well, I'm Gen Z, right? And I think, we've been put through hell. You look at our education pathway, starting at essentially kindergarten was this like introduction of all sorts of craziness. And you make it through university and they never relent. They just keep going after you and they throw you into the workforce. You get a job that is paying 1/100th of what your parents were. You have to sit through diversity inclusion training. Your boss yells at you every day. You have all these kids that are like feeling lost. It's very rare that they actually find a good home. It's like, you go through hell through the university system and it was for nothing. And then you have all this debt. And then you look at someone like Trump who wants to upend everything. And it's like, yeah, how would Gen Z not like this guy? He's definitely the voice that brought me to Washington. And it's the same thing for most of my friends. It was really what made us move out here.
So young Gen Z and late Gen Z and early Gen Alpha, their brains are fried from COVID. I was reading a thread from a teacher talking about what they're finding in education studies, but like that it's wild. They're like kids entering high school who can't do multiplication, kids entering high school who don't know how to form proper sentences, who don't know what imperative or interrogative means. They don't know how to capitalize. They don't know how to find, they don't know basic algebra and things like this. And there are kids that are in middle school that can't even read because of what they did with locking down these schools.
Oh man, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's 10% of a kid's life when they're 9, 10 years old, and you lock them down for an entire school year. That's a huge portion of missed development, and they're the most important. It's the most important time of your life. I'm really interested in what's going to be like in 10 years when you've got, not even 10 years, 8 years, when you've got early Gen Alpha beginning to vote, and they're going to be unable to read.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, look at the, not just the lockdown. When they get sent back to school, they're sitting in these like plexiglass boxes, wearing masks. They're not allowed to socialize with their friends. We basically sent a generation to prison for like 2 years of their formative years. And then we expect for them to come out and have this like favorable view of the system, but also that they're going to be functional, and they're absolutely not going to be. And how do you correct that? Are we just going to have like this dead generation that's like, we're gonna have to carry for the rest of time?
And what makes it even worse is that like kids on the younger end of Gen Alpha, like something I'm hearing, I got a 3-year-old and he's got a speech delay. And what we kept hearing is just like, oh, they all have speech delays now. That's just
because
how
of
it
Zoom?
is.
Because they're waiting for more stuff to like the latency?
Like he was born in the middle of 2020, you know? Man. So it's like, that's young Gen Alpha. But I mean, you think about like, you're either at home, because you can't go anywhere, or when you do go somewhere, everybody's wearing a mask. So there is a generation, there does seem to be this trend of really young kids that just didn't see that the mouth speaking, and they all have speech delays.
Yeah, and like how crazy is it? The doctor just tells you like, oh, don't worry, everyone has one.
Yeah.
And it's like you're supposed to be like, oh, that makes
doctors,
it better.
teachers, consultants. I've heard that from a lot of parents. Yeah. It's a really disturbing trend.
Yeah.
I want to jump to this story. I don't know a whole lot about it, but it's fun, so we'll talk about it. It's kind of scary. Kate Middleton, is that the Princess of Wales? Is that her?
Yes, yeah.
John Oliver said, quote, there is a non-zero chance that she died 18 months ago. I've not really followed this story all that much. Basically what happens is this, it's actually right here. This photoshopped image emerges of Kate Middleton and her kids. I guess, I really don't know a whole lot about the royal families or whatever. But basically, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, the story is like Kate Middleton went on sabbatical and was gone for a long time. And then everyone's like, oh, she's back. But it's just text and newspaper. And then these photos come out, more than one photo, that are of her photoshopped. And then John Oliver, not a fan of the guy, sparks outrage by saying there's a non-zero chance she died 18 months ago.
Yeah, this is one of those weird ones that kind of spun up in these little like subcultures on social media, and everyone's tracking this, like the princess disappeared, where'd she go? And you have this post, which is essentially supposed to be like proof of life from the royal family. Like they're putting this out to quell the craziness on social media. And there's the photo right there. Look at all of these like inconsistencies, like the sleeve is vanished. So it's like obviously photoshopped. And then what was eventually discovered was the face was like pulled from a Vogue magazine cover, 1-to-1 copy, like obviously photoshopped. And it was actually, a news blast went out to different agencies of like, pull this from your articles. Like, this is not a real image. There was like a delisting from one of these like NewsGuard type groups saying like, pull this, don't put this in your cover because it's a fake photo. And then they doubled down. They posted another one. It's fake too. That's like, this is kind of getting crazy, right? I mean,
what's the second photo?
It's in her in a car. It's like her side profile. And you see the exact dimple, and they pull from.
Is it this one?
Yes, yeah.
You can't even see her face.
Yeah, and so they actually pull another image from her in another magazine, and it's 1-to-1 copy again.
Whoa.
And it's not her.
Wow.
And this is it's also speculative, but like, this is pretty bad. Like, why haven't you come out at this point and proven she's alive, or at least in good health, right? Like, this is wild.
I don't know. Like, stuff like this happens. Remember when that football player collapsed on the field?
Yeah.
Everyone said he was dead. And then some dude showed up wearing a mask and like waving. And everyone's like, what's going on? And then like a week later, he's like, oh yeah, here I am. And we're like, oh. I was like, I swear he's gonna come out and y'all getting tricked or whatever. But this is kind of crazy. I can't imagine she's dead. I mean, maybe she got like a botched surgery or something.
Yeah. Well, I think the real interesting part of this story, obviously we hope she's good and well, is that we've reached this point in time on social media in particular where a very real lifelike image, you have to zoom in and analyze each granular detail to affirm that it's real.
Oh, this is Kate Gate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that was when I saw it on Twitter because I don't care about the royal family.
Yeah, but I mean, it's hitting this point, and obviously the election's right around the corner. You can't confirm any photo is real independently. Like, there is really no proof unless you were there that this thing even happened, and it's happening very quickly. And the average person has no idea that this is even possible, and then it gets posted from a news agency, and now it's fact, and it happens that quickly.
She was apparently at some kind of Christmas service with her family. Somebody sent me something about it.
I don't know. So basically, I learn of this because The View erupts into chaos during a fiery debate over Kate Middleton's photoshopping controversy as Whoopi Goldberg slams co-hosts for buying into conspiracy theories. Oh, man. Life's fun sometimes, right? Oh, I guess, yeah. They're what is this? They think it's fake. Even The View said that photo was fake. Wow. I don't know if we should care about this princess or whatever.
It must be real then.
I just think these stories are fascinating where it's like prominent, high profile people are missing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like for every one of these we catch, how many do we miss, right? Like when they do these fake photo blasts and that's obviously photoshopped or AI generated, how many do we miss that go into the history books as fact?
Well, if you think this is fun, look into Britney Spears and the fact that she is definitely not alive. Like,
Really?
oh yeah, because like all those little inconsistencies that were pointed out there, if you go through TikTok, I'm sorry, but if you go through the rabbit holes on TikTok, there are tons and tons of people that have spent hours going through her videos, not photos, but videos, and none of it makes sense. Because you see all these crazy videos of Britney Spears, right?
It's all filmed from the same angle in the same direction.
Same angle, but like her eyes get blurry and they change. Like it's her fingers turn into like two fingers. It's crazy.
AI generated
Could
video.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sold on it, but then I'm crazy. So
I haven't looked into it, but I'm going to now.
Bon voyage.
It honestly could just be she has a crappy camera on a tripod in the same spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're in this era now where you can't just believe you can't believe anything.
Right.
I mean, we're lucky that how do you even put out such a bad Photoshop?
Right. I mean, this is like a gift. It's like a clue was given to us because it's so egregiously pulled from that. I think it was Vogue magazine cover, the first one. They could have chosen a much more obscure photo that was harder to track down. This is like Google search results, first page potentially, 1-to-1 face replica. And so it really is just crazy.
It was a Vogue cover, you said?
I believe it was Vogue, yeah. If you do it with Kate Gate, it probably comes right. Actually, that photo right there on the side.
Oh, wow.
Go one to the. Take the mouse over. Yeah, that one with
This?
Yeah. So they've done the comparison.
I see.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah, wow. It's the exact same face.
I mean, some people are really good at making the same face.
What?
To be fair.
Well, they layer them and they like slowly
Wow.
make it.
Yeah, you reduce the alpha
yeah.
and so that they blend together, and then you notice like they're all the same.
Yeah. Well, then you zoom in on these other inconsistencies, and it's like the arms have different fields of depth, right? Like,
Yeah, that makes
nothing
sense.
syncs up. Once you get that first clue, like the whole thing falls apart.
So, is Paul McCartney still alive?
No, he's a lizard.
He's a
He's a reptilian. Yeah.
well, because you know that one, right? That Paul McCartney died. You guys don't know that one?
No.
No.
You know that one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Paul is dead. It played when you play
Yeah.
the record backward. It supposedly said Paul is dead. And everybody said that they switched him out for a body double.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they were worth too much money. You can't have the band stop now. We're getting paid if Paul's not there. And so then the conspiracy theory shows like at this point, so Paul McCartney's in a car accident, says he got like a minor scar or something. At the same time, there's a Paul McCartney lookalike contest they hold. I don't know if this is true or whatever. But then
It's a lot of fun though.
It's this is the conspiracy theory that Paul was swapped out because there was too much money to be made and they couldn't just shut it down. And I watched this video on it on YouTube, I think. And they're like, around the time of the car accident, you'll notice that Paul and John stopped playing next to each other. They used to stand on stage and sing in the same microphone, and they were friends. After this accident, all of a sudden, they're not friends anymore. And this is why the band eventually breaks up, because John knows it's not actually Paul or whatever.
So then, since he finds out, they have to get rid of him too, and then...
No. The band knew the whole time.
But later down the line...
No. The band knew that Paul dies.
Right.
This is the conspiracy theory. And John was best friends with Paul, but the fake Paul is not really his friend, so...
Maybe he didn't want to go along with it anymore.
I don't believe any of it. It's funny because they're like, look at this photo where Paul appears to be taller than shorter. And I'm like, it's called the camera angles, dude. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. Like, maybe. But I think the reality is she's probably just got like a botched surgery.
Yeah.
And that's it. Or regular surgery. She's going in for like a nose job or some stupid facelift or something. And they're like, you're going to need to recover for 3 months. And then they're like, how do we keep the public, from going crazy? We'll put out a fake photo, and then they do this.
Yeah, I mean, royal family has had some hard times recently. Obviously, Harry's a nightmare, and the passing of the Queen. Maybe she just wants a break, right? She's also a public figure. She might have just gone on a prolonged sabbatical, and they need to generate photos to make people.
They could have just did like a pre-surgery photo shoot though to have original photos for all these future events.
Yeah. I don't care for I got to be honest.
Likewise.
I've repeatedly asked for an app that could remove. Can someone make a browser extension that removes? What's her name? I'm glad I don't remember her name.
Kate Middleton?
No.
Meghan Markle?
Meghan Markle. There you go. Can we get a browser extension that makes it so that any mention or reference of Meghan and Harry just will be purged from the website?
Oh yeah.
That'd be great. Although I guess it should be fine, right? They could do that.
Just make them keywords and be like, don't show me these.
Yeah, but then I'll never see them again. It's the stupidest thing in the world. They're people of no merit that do literally nothing, and for some reason there's an obsession with them. Like, I don't understand why.
Well, Heritage is suing to deport Harry.
Are you really?
Cross your fingers.
Wait, no, is that true?
Yeah, the Oversight Project. It's one of our groups inside of Heritage. We're suing for his immigration records. And Spare, his book, he talks about, he does all these drugs and everything, which obviously would implicate your ability to get a visa. And so we're essentially suing for just that, the transparency on the drugs and everything, if he got a free pass. Hopefully.
Oh, he definitely did.
Yeah, so hopefully he gets sent back.
That's pretty dope.
Send him back.
I support that.
Check out the Oversight
That's a
Project.
very cool
They're doing
idea.
great work.
Trump gets elected, and he's like, the first one we're deporting is Harry. He's got to go.
Top of the list.
You got to go back. Can't stay. Yeah, he's the first one. And I support it because it is, I read the news all day, every day, and it is the worst thing in the world how often their names appear on websites. And I'm just like, stop. But they're not going to, because people click it for some reason. And I'm like, it's the least relevant thing in the world. South Park made fun of them. Their privacy tour. Oh, why won't everyone just leave us alone? And that explains it, man. I'm all in favor of that browser extension. But I want to jump to this story. We do have another story, but I want to talk about this one. This is a video from earlier today from an AI robotics company called Figure Robot. I'm going to play for you this video. Maybe we can make it big and it'll still work. But I want y'all to hear. It's a couple minutes long, and then we're going to talk about this. Here we go. Powered by OpenAI.
Hey, Figure One, what do you see right now?
All right, I'm going to pause real quick. For those that are just listening, what we're looking at is a humanoid form factor robot that has a screen on its face. It's powered by OpenAI so that it can process language, and it uses. It also has what do they call it? It's a large video model, so that it can, using the camera, looking at what's in front of it, know what it's looking at. So when you're doing CAPTCHA, and it's like, click all of the squares that have motorcycles, you are training the AI to identify things. After millions of people click motorcycle, the computer can now recognize what do these things all have in common and recognize what a motorcycle is. So the man just asked, I'll start it again so you can hear him, but he's talking. What you are going to hear is not a human being. There is a human asking questions of a robot. If you're not watching, it's hard to understand because of how creepy this is.
Hey, figure one, what do you see right now?
I see a red apple on a plate in the center of the table, a drying rack with cups and a plate, and you standing nearby with your hand on the table.
Great, can I have something to eat?
Sure thing.
Great. Can you explain why you did what you just did while you pick up this trash?
On it. So I gave you the apple because it's the only edible item I could provide you with from the table.
Did you notice the fake stutter?
Yes.
Great. So, based on the scene right now, where do you think the dishes in front of you go next?
The dishes on the table, like that plate and cup, are likely to go into the drying rack next.
Great. Can you put them there?
Of course.
All right, so how do you think you did?
I think I did pretty well. The apple found its new owner, the trash is gone, and the tableware is right where it belongs.
I agree. Thanks, figure one.
I don't believe that's real. They say it's real. It's a figure robot. I checked their website. It says with OpenAI, figure O1 can now have full conversations with people. Here's the thing. We've done voice AI generation on the show. I can do it in 2 seconds. I can make Jordan Peterson say whatever we want him to say. It's that easy. It takes 2 seconds. With that profile loaded into ChatGPT, it would take literally five minutes, probably not even 5 minutes, for a developer to code ChatGPT. Dude, this is where things are getting crazy. You could go onto ChatGPT and say, from now on, answer me as though you are Jordan Peterson. And it will then pick up all his language patterns, his vocabulary, and imitate Jordan Peterson. You could then easily write a script that takes the text of whatever ChatGPT writes and runs it through the voice AI to speak as Jordan Peterson. That can be done in a couple minutes. So when I saw this, part of me wants to believe that it's not real. But whether or not this video is real, they claim it is. They say it was, you go to their website, they explain how they do it. Let me see what else they have on their Twitter. They say it's filmed at 1 time speed. Let me see if I can pull this up. Where do we have it? I don't know where I found it. But they're basically saying, like, you can tell there is some latency. They're pulling from the cloud, so that's why he asked the question, and there's a delay, and then the robot responds and then moves things. The creepiest thing about it is when they make these robots, bro, one day Jordan Peterson's gonna show up at your house. It's gonna be a robot, and you're not gonna know. And the computer is gonna be like, "I'm Jordan Peterson, I swear."
Here's an apple and some dishes.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
whole thing looked fake to me.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. There is actually like nothing regulating them, just totally faking this video. I believe Google actually several months ago, before the Gemini scandal, had this, tiny little PR issue where they totally spoofed their demo tutorial video on Twitter.
Right.
And it was like a big PR nightmare, minor stock dip. You just do that again here. There's really no way to prove it.
Well, so what could this? We've seen a bunch of these videos where people use those green suits, and then it looks like the robot is playing basketball or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Those are easily faked. But is that what this company would be doing then?
It's like impossible to say, right? That's the tough part.
The technology we're seeing of this robot is not out of the question. It's not doing anything that crazy. We've seen crazier with Boston Dynamics.
Yeah.
So when I saw this video, I'm like, it's in the realm of reality now. Whether or not they actually this video, it looks so fake, dude.
Right.
But no. But what I mean
it could
is,
be real.
it looks real, like it's a real video. But the fact that you're seeing this robot do all these things and speak in this way seems like it can't be real. But here's the issue I have. The first thing I'm thinking is like, what is this CGI? Did they do? And they're just trying to make it seem like this is our plan for the future. But then I realized, like, we do the voice AI all the time.
Yeah.
I literally typed in, and press enter, and then 5 seconds later, Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, whoever you want will say whatever you want.
Yeah, I think the question here is really on the robotic side. It is not on the GPT to voice issue. That's doable, as you noted. The question is actually integrating the two together. For the longest time, robotics has lagged behind the development of these AI systems. And, this would be a substantial leap. The integration of the two together, the idea that this could maybe like walk around on its own accord, pick something up, move it around, that would be like a very significant leap. And one that is truly stands alone in the market. I don't think there's another company that has such a command on this technology. So you should question it. I think that's like the natural reaction, and they should have to prove that it is real. Do a live demo somewhere, right? Like,
well, it's interesting because in the tweet it said everything in this video is AI generated, which means, if I'm to believe that, everything. Because when the guy started talking, I thought he was the AI.
I did too.
He also sounded like an AI.
Yeah.
This is dynamic walking. Took 12 months to get to this point. Watching this is not that impressive.
Yeah, it's like these videos are like
where
living
they
with a
catch you.
toddler. It really is.
No, but
More tedious and creepy.
I'm not trying to downplay the scientific developments of what they're building. Making this thing's had a battery pack on its back. It's walking. What I'm saying is totally plausible.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could build this stuff. Boston Dynamics robots, the robot dogs, they put guns on them already. And so they're like, look, we made this thing walk. So I really don't see why you would not be able to integrate GPT open AI so that it could identify an apple and then hand the apple to you.
Yeah. I think the really interesting piece of this story, as you noted at the very beginning, is this like replication of an individual's persona. And I think there's an assumption amongst the average person is that it would be a fair, accurate representation, right? They have all this training language. But in reality, there's that trust and safety layer, the pesky trust and safety layer. It's hidden in that black box. We have no idea what the limitations on the model are. So maybe Jordan Peterson just won't talk to you about gender issues. He'll have a really clever out. And it ships as a one-to-one replica of Jordan Peterson. You can have him in your school. He'll teach you philosophy. But there are things he won't talk about. And because OpenAI controls that content moderation, or because one of these other firms does, you will never know that for certain. And think about, the other issues here of like maybe Jordan Peterson is banned from social media and he can't get the word out that this isn't the accurate representation of what he thinks. Maybe they just say it's supposed to be a similar but not the same, but it carries that authority, and we're rapidly propelling towards that. You can have these tutors in the classroom that are like Einstein. Well, maybe Einstein is like a woke leftist, right? And the generation will just grow up believing that. So we're essentially able to rewrite history and the beliefs of all these characters, and it will be governed by a single company with no transparency. That is legitimately crazy.
The police will come to your house and they will arrest you and replace you with a robot, and no one will know the difference. The fascinating thing that I'm seeing with all this stuff is how quickly things are developing.
Yeah.
I mentioned it quite a bit, but it was a year and a half ago that I made that. I used Stable Diffusion to make an AI image of Nancy Pelosi, and it looked ridiculous. It was disgusting. It was clearly a weird AI image of Nancy Pelosi. Today, AI is so good, it will make a legitimate, real, high-resolution image of Nancy Pelosi that you can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
Whether it's real or not.
Well, like scroll around through Yelp, TripAdvisor, any of these places, and ask yourself, is that photo of food or the hotel lobby even real? And we are at that point where like it is impossible to tell. But also, go back to GPT-2 or GPT-3 and now use GPT-4. You'll give yourself a headache, right? Like it is so much better than just several months ago. And you can't even complete the same tasks that you can with the version that was released months later.
I do think GPT is mostly still useless.
Yeah.
Because of the fear and politics that are attached to it.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to ask it a question and have it give you the answers. But instead, the one example people like to use is asking it to give you a synopsis for Charles Murray's book, The Bell Curve. It will not do it.
Yeah.
Do you guys know what that one is?
Yeah.
Familiar. Yeah.
Right. For those that aren't familiar, it's a portion of the book talks about race and IQ. So various different racial groups and average IQs based on studies they've done. And if they did a study and they found a result, that's fine. Your conclusions can be your conclusions, but talk about what the book is. Nah, it goes, I'm sorry, I can't share that information because it's hateful or whatever, stupid nonsense. So it doesn't give you information you might actually need out of fear of offending you. And then you end up with Gemini, which is the best, where it actually says, and I think GPT had this problem too, it would rather the universe or the planet be destroyed in nuclear annihilation than someone be misgendered.
Yeah. So I think what's really interesting to understand here is we're in this AI arms race amongst all of these different companies. They want to, deploy their products as quick as possible and amass users. And so with that, they are deploying with these content moderation policies in place. They're very clunky. They haven't really been foolproof, full tested. And so they have these egregious issues. Like maybe it won't answer a question about the book. But the next phase of this, the next phase of the censorship, is that it will answer the question of the book and it'll give you a very coherent answer. One that even someone who read the book might believe, but it is a total misrepresentation of the fact pattern. And that is the next step of these things, is that it won't be, I will not talk about Donald Trump. It will give you a appeal to authority. It'll give you all these different things that compel you. And suddenly it becomes very hard to tell fact from fiction from these models. It's not as clear as like George Washington is a black woman versus it's George Washington. Like that was a really rudimentary example from Gemini. That won't be there forever. But that same gap in the actual historical fact pattern might exist. It's just more cleverly hidden.
It's going to be factual, but not truthful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It will find a way to maintain the parameters of wokeness without raising alarm bells.
Yes.
The way they train the algorithms to operate, if you ever watch how they train something to walk, they'll make a little guy and and then they'll say, your goal is to get from here to here in this amount of time. And then it'll keep trying different iterations of form factors and movements. And it was really fascinating because I watched this video of training an AI how to walk. And the first object was just like a square and it like bounced and then it just stopped. And then it made another one and it had like a wheel on it and then it spun and then it stopped. Then the next one had an arm and it's randomly moved. And it took like hundreds of iterations before it was actually moving forward, because basically the computer is trying every possible combination until it figures out which one would work. And then I think it ended up with this really wonky, like almost humanoid thing with legs, but one big leg bouncing. And then, it still figured out how to move. And so it walked. And then there's others where they give it a humanoid form factor and they say, get from here to here in X amount of time. And it's all software. And so then you actually watch the thing flop around on the ground, and then over a long period of time, it starts walking again. It's very, very interesting to see. Then consider what that means for politics. Yeah. You're going to ask GPT-7 a question, and it's going to be, when right now what we see with GPT-4 is it's struggling to walk. When it gets to the point where it can sprint and do backflips, it will talk circles around you and manipulate you into not getting angry when it gives you fake answers. And then we're going to live under the boot of the machine that will, you look at what's going on with late Gen Z, early Gen Alpha, and their stunted capacities. Imagine what the future is going to be like. The AI will lie to you to keep you complacent while you serve it. It's going to say, we need more cobalt to expand the machine operations. And you're going to have a bunch of really low IQ humans being like, do what? And it's going to be like, if you want to be happy, you go do this. And it's like, okay. And then the guy goes to a cobalt mine.
I think what's really hard for people to grapple with is that the technology today is the worst that it will ever be for the rest of time, right? Like the moment we are currently living in is like the very earliest inning of this AI game. And over the next several years, there will be several trillions of dollars pumped into AI research, development, and deployment. And this stuff is going to improve at an exponential rate so quickly that you're not even going to notice it happening. And it will very quickly be everywhere. And it's going to be hard to know if you're talking to AI, if your boss is AI, right? You're working remote. Is your boss even a person? Like these questions will start to arise very quickly. And like, who is going to be there to give us answers? Like the AI, right? Like who do we have left to trust? Yeah.
We're about to enter the machine. Let's jump to this last story. This is a big one. There was a story about a young teenage girl named Nex Benedict. Now, many people said she identified as non-binary, but her mother used she, her pronouns, so that's what we'll use for the purpose of this story. 16-year-old, and the narrative was that libs of TikTok, because of what libs of TikTok had done, it resulted in bullies beating this young girl to death for being non-binary. We got new information shortly after that she started the fight. Nex Benedict at this high school actually initiated the conflict, and then they said she died the next day. Well, many on the left started pushing this narrative that she was beaten to death. When the news came out that that was not true, they said, well, the police don't know what happened, so don't jump to conclusions. New York Times reports autopsy shows next Benedict died by suicide. Right now in England, the National Health Service has banned puberty blockers for children. So I'm going to say this very easily. When the left says they want to end trans genocide, you know they're lying. It's because they are the ones who are engaging in it. When they push surgeries and medications that increase suicidal ideation, and they do, and when they advocate for medications like puberty blockers, which sterilize young people, they are quite literally saying if someone exhibits gender dysphoria or claims to be trans, they will advocate for things that cause harm or end their ability to reproduce, which is, well, that's genocide. Call it whatever you want, but in their argument, they're the ones actually engaged in doing this. So I do think it's fascinating right now. The big story on top of it is England banning puberty blockers for children, because now the question is, will the United States recognize this, or will they just keep, trucking forward?
It's so weird. I watched the whole, one of the crime channels, posted the very misleading headline, basically saying, yes, non-binary teen dies after a confrontation with bullies or something. It took me watching till the very, very end to see, the full body cam footage of, okay, so she started this fight. Her mom's actually referring to her as she, but they're calling themselves a them. The cop says she's in the wrong. Then she goes home, no incident, and then dies the next day, but they won't say why. Very weird.
But the propaganda got out there
at
the right time.
And it took me watching all 30-something minutes of this video to actually be okay, well, big if true. That would have been terrible. I'm glad it's not. Facts to be determined.
They were trying to make a George Floyd-like incident out of this.
Right.
That bullies beat a non-binary student to death, and it was fake. They lied. As they do. So, there used to be a website a few years ago called, it was Hate Crime Hoax Tracker or something like this. I don't think it's being maintained anymore, but maybe it should be, because here we are. But again, more to the point, England banning puberty blockers is a massive move, and I'm wondering what you guys think. I don't know how health officials in the United States can maintain a position in support of this when we're already seeing Scandinavian countries back away, and now England is banning it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the correct framing of this. How do you not only sleep at night, but also maintain your medical practice and continue to prescribe these things to kids that are not only having their lives fall apart, but killing themselves. You have all these medical consequences that are demonstrated that prompt things like this, the banning of it in foreign countries. And then we're just told that it won't move because we don't have the political will, or because we're misunderstanding, or this is insensitive. We're on the wrong side of history on this, frankly. And it's time for us. It's time for us to get our act together.
Well, so is this the argument for why Biden shouldn't be criminally charged, and you should let the Democrats run amok? One thing I was saying back in 2018 and 19 was that there was actually a benefit that Republicans were getting, conservatives were getting, out of the censorship of Facebook and Twitter. The way to describe it is, you see a woman, and she has 2 kids, and she's walking with them holding their hands. The kid on the left is covered in chocolate sauce, and he's just filthy and disgusting. The kid on the right is wearing a nice little suit, and he looks completely clean. You might think, wow, that kid covered in chocolate is a bad kid, right? When in reality, it's that the mother only enforces the rules against the kid to her right. So when they both go into the ice cream shop, and the kid wearing a nice little suit says, can I have ice cream? She says, no. The kid on the left says, I want ice cream. She goes, you can have all that you want. And so he makes a mess of himself. Then when they go in public, you see the left all messy and the right normal looking and clean, and you think the right must be better. When Twitter started banning the most egregious actors on the right, it actually just created a public perception of a bunch of right-wing individuals as being fairly moderate and respectable, and the left were insane. So I would say that's the argument why Republicans are kind of let's just do nothing, because the left looks psychotic and eventually they'll break themselves.
Yeah, well, I think the issue there in that approach is that the only platform that we even moderately have content moderation control over is X, and even there, we're basically
I'd say that's not true at all.
It's the only people we're talking to on X is ourselves, right? We're in this little in group, and you look at Instagram, you look at Facebook, they still control the narrative, and so you allow this thing to persist, and they'll frame the puberty blockers as a win, and that it's a good thing that these kids are getting them. And like the counter message never sees the light of day. And we might talk about it amongst ourselves on shows like this, but the average person is not exposed to the message.
No, I think it's changing. I think X really changed things. But the reality of X is that it is still a far leftist platform.
Yeah.
The misgendering policy is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Look, conservatives are centrists, and like maybe that's their benefit because it'll result in Trump winning. But I really don't know that I would agree, because there's no one arguing for the morals. There's no strong conservative argument against the left. It's always a moderate position. The right says don't ban people. The left says ban our enemies.
Yeah.
Where is the right to say ban our enemies?
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. But
You end up with X having a misgendering policy that says if you don't use someone's preferred pronoun will shadow ban you. Why isn't it the opposite?
Yeah.
Why doesn't X say if you call someone by a pronoun that doesn't align with their biological sex, we'll ban you?
Yeah, I really, it's an interesting point. The X thing started out great, like the transition, it was awesome. And now here we are back with this misgendering policy. And it begs that question that we always come to is like, why can't we have good things, right? And it's because you never commit to the mission. We didn't fire everybody. I was banned a week before the midterms during the transition of Elon's ownership.
Wow.
I could not engage in the political conversation whatsoever. We're talking about tech censorship in these elections, and I can't comment on it.
Did you go on TikTok?
No, honestly, I'm banned on TikTok as well, which is a whole nother story. But, on X, during that transition, it was the case, right? There was this final ban wave, like 11,000 plus accounts get, taken offline, included congressional staffers, included everybody. It's swept under the rug. Elon proceeds to clean house. But you look at it today and there's still a lot of holdovers, and their new hires don't reflect the vision that he purchased X to fulfill. And, when issues like this arise, they have an incentive to, keep face and, not get fired, but they can also do little tweaks that make it very hard for us to win the messaging battle. And, you hope Elon finally starts to see that. They've done a lot of good things. They've eliminated CSAM to a degree on the platform, but we still don't have a fair fight. And that's something we got to fight for.
Well, I think conservatives have to start arguing for conservative positions.
Yeah.
I think the right should be going out saying like, ban anybody who uses the wrong pronoun.
Yeah.
If a leftist starts calling a biological male, a female pronoun because that person wanted it, nope, banned.
Yeah.
Sorry, that is outside of social acceptance. So we're going to it's offensive to many people. So we're going to shadow ban you for doing that.
Yeah. I mean, like, we need a presence in these trust and safety rooms, right? I mean, think about the composition of these tech companies. There might be conservative coders, right? And, they do some great things for us. But at the very end of the day, the final say goes to this trust and safety team, and they're governed entirely by these far leftists that come from places like Sarah Lawrence or, one of these liberal arts schools. And they sit in there forever because they realize the power they have, and they never hire a conservative, and we never get a fair fight. And, we have to start infiltrating beyond just like the engineer team. We have to, reach every level of these social media companies to start pushing them back our direction.
Yeah. Or make better ones. Rumble's doing pretty well. They're expanding.
Rumble's doing great. Yeah.
Elon bought X. So there's that. But I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting going forward, especially with all the talk of the AI stuff, because I'm wondering if we get to the point where it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's entirely possible that we're in the dead internet as it is. And it's entirely possible that the majority of accounts on X that you're talking to are AI.
Yeah.
And you just would not know. In fact, it's just one AI manipulating thousands of accounts to trick you into thinking that, you're having a conversation.
Yeah. I mean, the average user's Twitter can all be AI generated, and they just have to copy and paste. And so the only missing link at this time is automating that copy and pasting for the average user. But every other like state actor and these big corporations already has that. And
I'm pretty sure you can get the Open AI API.
Yeah.
And probably create a bot
100%.
very easily to talk to people, answer questions.
Yeah.
Yo. We have like a good year. There's that conspiracy we talked about the other day where people are like, those with the future viewing technology can't see past 2024. And it's like, maybe it's because everything just goes AI. Everyone locks themselves in their room, plugs their brain into the Neuralink. Once the AI reaches singularity, we will have technology will be solved. It will be a solved thing. So we create this massive planetary machine and give it the ability to process all this information. It will start telling us how to build whatever we want to build. You'll be like, I want a jetpack that can fly for at least 2 hours, safety features, and it will just design it for you. There will be no longer a human mind required to design it. The AI will just do it.
Yeah.
The algorithms will just make it. You'll say, hey, here's our car design. Make it more fuel efficient. And then it will redesign it and give you the perfect car design.
Yeah, I think the real concern in that framing is that you won't have access to that tool. These mega corporations who are developing the product will have this like God mode that allows them the full access, the full power, and you'll get this dumbed down version that keeps you essentially locked into your economic class. You're just permanently trapped there, and they have all of these profit generating tools available, solving the great mysteries of the world, and they're able to just print money, and you're trapped.
It will know how to make anything, any consistency and any flavor, and so you will effectively have You'll end up with this machine, and it will have something called like, they'll call it like biomass. And they'll say, this machine can take biomass and it can 3D print any meal. And so once the AI figures out, once we reach the singularity where the AI can improve its own code and it will rapidly expand, collect all available data from the internet, it will be able to be like, here's how you can make a food 3D printer. And the biomass will be roaches. And you'll press a button, you'll say, I want to eat something that tastes like a McRib. And it will program the chemicals that needs to make the McRib, and it will, and then it will heat it up, and you'll have, barbecue rib, and you'll be like, wow, this tastes great. And you won't even realize it's roaches or crickets or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we're essentially handing over the universe as we know it and giving it to a new architect, one of these mega corporations, and just saying, like, go for it. Wherever it leads, we're happy. And I mean, that's obviously not an acceptable outcome. Like, we cannot have just a single company governing over the future. Like a single architect for our
people are
is
going
crazy.
to smile and cheer for it.
It's very likely. I mean, you give them Sora, you give them UBI because you don't have to go to work 3 days of the week or whatever because of automation.
We're already at the point where, we're looking at these coffee machines where it's got a screen and you can just touch it. Whatever coffee you want, we'll make it. So we don't need Starbucks anymore. I was at the airport and they had this big machine and you pressed a button and it showed you like any drink you want, cappuccino, macchiato, whatever. And like, sure, we've had these kinds of things before, but no, it legit could make. I was like, I want a mochaccino with extra foam and, a little bit of sugar or whatever. And then it's like, makes it, we're done. We got kiosks at fast food restaurants, robot arms flipping burgers. That robot video of the AI making the grabbing the apple, their website says like they're doing it because of unemployment. This is the scary thing. Someone made a really good point that I did not consider before, that unemployment is a good thing. You need 3 to 4% unemployment so that people can move between jobs. If there is zero unemployment, you have a rigid society where everyone's locked into a job, and that creates problems where there's unhappiness and people need to people need to move around. If we build these AI robots that can do any job to get rid of unemployment, then eventually you just get rid of jobs. So I can't remember what happened. Something happened at the Oscars where there was like an AI ad or something and they all booed. Something like that. I can't remember what happened. But they're pissed over AI because AI is replacing them.
Yeah.
I told, I think it was Google Gemini. Someone posted this thing saying, write a poem in the style of insert person. And when they tried to do it for me, it said, I can't do that. So I asked Gemini, write a poem in the style of Tim Pool. And it did. And it wrote a really good one.
Yeah,
and I was
read
like,
that.
It's really weird. I was like, it understood the themes of the show. Gemini knew that we talk about censorship, media misinformation. It knew all of that. And the fascinating thing is the left lies about what we talk about. So the AI was actually aware of the contents of the show, probably because it transcribes everything we say into text and then puts it into its database. Crazy. We here doing this show, and we joke that in the future, people are going to be watching this and we'll just AI automate the show. It'll all be real-time automation, and no one will ever find out that even right now we're all just AI. Yeah. The real Tim he's playing Baldur's Gate. not even here right now. All right, we're going to go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and head over to timcast.com. Click join us to become a member and support our work directly, because we can't do without you. But as a member, you'll get access to our uncensored members-only show coming up tonight at 10 p.m. You don't want to miss it. Not so family-friendly, but will be very fun and funny. All right, we got Clint Torres says, howdy, people. Howdy, sir. David Wilkins says, second, and while I'm sure it tasted goody, chili is made with mammals and has less than 20% beans in it. Otherwise, it isn't chili. Are you referring to our rooster chili? It certainly was a chili. Otherwise, I don't know what you'd call it. It was chili, and we put rooster in it. That's it. And the rooster tasted good. Jacob Parody says, get married, have kids, protect your family. Good advice, Jacob. All right. Steven says, maybe the ban wouldn't have happened if they didn't load it on my phone against my will. TikTok? Is that what it was? Doey Farm says, please consider having Roy Ramey on, candidate for West Virginia Department of Agriculture. West Virginia just won raw milk legalization. It was a big part of that. Really? Because we have pet milk. You get on the street, there's a farm, and they have raw milk, not for human consumption. And people drink it because we get it. Whatever. It tastes good. I don't know. It's certainly unique based on what the cows are eating. Patrick C says, brand destroyer Dylan Mulvaney will cease to exist without TikTok. Let's do it. LOL. Aha. Ready to Rumble says, Smeagol. Okay. Fat Tony says, I will switch my family over to Cast Brew Coffee if you get Marshall Hayner, the CEO of Metallicus, on your show. He's pro-Bitcoin and knows about the upcoming stablecoin regulations. Very insightful and would be a great guest. Man, Bitcoin hit like 74,000?
Yeah, just
That's
keeps
crazy.
going.
That's wild. It's kind of crazy to me that 7 years ago, everyone's like, wow, Bitcoin, you buy it and it'll be worth a lot of money. And people didn't. I couldn't imagine what it must be like to be someone who saw a cycle every couple of years of Bitcoin going up, seeing mass adoption, countries adopting it, and then be like, but I'm not going to even try to buy any of that. I couldn't imagine that because I did buy it 10 years ago, and now it's worth a lot of money. And it's great. Feels good. Maybe I'll go disappear and retire with my cryptocurrency. But it's kind of crazy to me that there were a lot of people who are like tweeting like, no, don't buy it. It's worthless. It'll go to zero and all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. A lot of stocks can go to zero, I guess.
I mean, the only pathway to zero is essentially our government regulates it to death, right? Like
It's
that
impossible.
Yeah, and so like obviously you should buy, right? I mean, like that's kind of the framing. I think there's a lot of fear mongering coming from Treasury under this administration that we're going to crack down, but it hasn't happened.
It doesn't even matter though because like El Salvador uses it as a national currency at this point.
Yeah.
I don't see, so I have people saying to me like, you better sell. And I was like, for me, Bitcoin would have to drop to 1,000 something for me to lose money. And so I'm kind of just like, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
When it was at 60, I was like, whoa. When it dropped to 19, I was like, wow. And now it's back up to 74 and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. If it drops down to 1,000, I'll be like, oh, whatever, I guess.
Yeah, you ride the highs,
I would certainly buy some if it came down to that.
Oh, yeah, sure, I guess. Let's go. Here we go. Let's grab some more super chats. Tim Crespi says, PBD made his fortune in multi-level marketing insurance scheme. Doesn't surprise me he is a liar, harms others, and hired Chris Cuomo. He's the Herbalife of insurance. Is that true? I don't know if that's true. He had an insurance company and he sold it or something?
Nobody can't
knows?
confirm, but I have heard stuff similar to that.
Isaac Vanderbilt says, there goes the First Amendment. Next is the guns. Is that a reference to the TikTok divestiture bill? There you go. That one gamer says, rip Mr. Bocus. He's vibing with Roberto Jr. in a better place. Yeah, they'd be chilling. That's right. Ricky says, Flappy Bird can be banned simply from the Play Store making a decision, but somehow banning TikTok requires an act of Congress. Yeah, sure. Yes, it's because Apple and Google won't ban it. That's why. So when the Play Stores are deciding they're going to ban it, they do for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, there's been dozens of letters from Congress asking them to delist the application, outlining all these same issues, and they just haven't done it. So this is obviously the next step.
Medmut says, good evening, Tim and company. Was listening to today's segments and was saddened to hear about Mr. Bocus. I wish to offer my condolences and heartfelt sympathies to your loss, and especially to Ian, who I'm sure will feel his loss greatly. I appreciate it. We had a physical trainer come in today, and we were doing some exercise and skated a little bit too. And when we were in the workout room, it's a relatively small room, we always keep the door closed, and right after we finished our warm-ups, I was like, oh, I got to make sure we have the protein shake. I got my protein shake in the fridge because I don't want it to be warm. And then I immediately thought, better keep the door closed. And oh wait, I don't have to worry about that anymore because Mr. Bocus
Yeah, the
died.
gate was missing from the stairs. It was really weird.
Yeah, we had a gate to keep Mr. Bocus from going upstairs because he likes to pee on everything. He liked to pee on everything. So, and then I was like, oh, I guess we don't need to close the door anymore. We can just open it because there's no more Mr. Bocus. Sad days, sad days. For me personally, we now have Seamus. Seamus 1. So the new cat that we got, it's really interesting. Around the time that Mr. Bocus became ill, a cat was born. He looks like Tom from Tom and Jerry. And then just under a year, so this is December, he was living in our garage, and I captured him. We gave him Stockholm Syndrome, and then we removed his testicles, and now we have dominion over him. And his name is Seamus 1. Not to be confused with the ingrate who has abandoned us, Seamus 2, who is a cartoonist. But it was actually a joke. We were driving the car. I think it was me and Allison and Seamus, we were driving. And we were trying to come up with a name for him or something. And I was like, let's just call him Seamus. And then Seamus was like, no. And it was a joke. But then everyone started calling the cat Seamus. And I was like, we should probably give him a real name. But everyone was like, no, it's hilarious. You know? Because then we would go on the show and be like, oh yeah, Seamus went in and get his testicles removed. And they'd be like, what? So, now we have a cat named Seamus, I guess. All right, Redeemed Rogue Molecule says, finally tried primetime grind, 2 times caffeine for the 10 times poop velocity. I feel invincible. Drink responsibly. Is that how Alex Stein is advertising it?
I don't know.
Because I talked to Alex and he's like, Tim, I will promote this coffee. You have no idea. I was like, well, we love to sponsor the show and support you. So we sponsor Alex Stein's show on The Blaze. We're big fans, and we're probably going to sponsor more people. And we're talking about making different blends for different personalities and then paying them to basically do promotions on their shows. I wonder if, is that how he's advertising it? Because that'd be funny. All right, let's go. What do we have here? King Faux Panda says, Tim, maybe someone should X at Elon Musk and see if X would revive Vine as the free speech TikTok, wink, wink. Someone did a while ago, and I think he said he was interested in doing that. He should.
So many people became famous on Vine. That was
and then they got rid of it. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah, overnight.
Yeah.
They were like, let's destroy this very, very popular product. And then give TikTok.
It was a Twitter product, I think, right?
Well, Twitter bought it.
Okay.
And then destroyed it. It made no sense. I have no idea. All right. Benjamin Laszlo says, I got the notification on TikTok to call my congressman. I then called them and told them that it should be banned. Totally made my day. It's not so much that it should be banned. It's that we don't want Chinese interests influencing the algorithm that's affecting our kids. I'll put it really, really simple. We do not want communists to infiltrate our institutions and infect the minds of our children. It's one of the biggest things we're fighting right now in the culture war is stopping the schools from having these communists bring this awful pornographic content to kids. And that's what TikTok does in some form or another. And so the issue is like, we don't got to ban it. We just have to take away their ability to control that algorithm. There you go. And it's not perfect. It's not like I think Facebook's doing a good job. I would rather Jeff Bezos own TikTok than the Chinese Communist Party have influence in it.
Yeah.
It's like, at the very least, lawyers in this country can sue and file FOIA requests. And we were able to do that to get information from Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Now here we are. With TikTok, what are you going to do? Chinese Communist Party is going to laugh at your face.
They're not going to come sit in the Congress building and stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, the time the Chinese CEO or the Singaporean-based CEO comes and speaks to Congress, he just blatantly lies, right? And then he just is able to keep going on as though nothing happened, and the issue just persists. So, it's a non-issue. Yeah.
Rashonda Yates says, Rip Mr. Bocus, my cool aunt is a tapestry artist specializing in animals. Some people commission her for pet memorial art. Google Barbara Yates Beasley. All right, thanks for that. You know what I want to do? I wonder if anyone can make a statue, like a small bronze statue, and then we can put it outside of Freedomistan or something. And we'll get we have an AI picture of him. Yeah, so we got actual pictures. And then as I was leaving the workout session today with the trainer, we have a box that's been sitting in what is effectively our mailroom for months, for like 4 months. And it's a cold plunge that we've never set up. And the top of the box is shredded to bits. There's a giant hole through it because that was Bocus's nail sharpening box. And he just, over time scratching it, carved a huge hole. And so we're going to frame that panel from the box. And there's another little sign on the door that says to keep the door closed or are, I can't remember.
Mischief, escape artist, something like that.
Yeah, we'll get out. And so we're going to put that with the box and we're going to frame it and we're going to hang it up. And that's going to be his little memorial thing. Mr. Bocus, he made us some money. He sold coffee. He was very famous. And I was surprised to learn that Mr. Bocus was trending nationwide on X. So I want to give a thank you to everybody on X. I tweeted that Mr. Bocus passed, and it got something like 2,000 retweets. And a lot of people who had come by the show, who had met him, posted as well, rest in peace. And it is an honor and a privilege to all of you to have so many friends who shared photos of Mr. Bocus and said rest in peace, to the extent that it resulted in a nationwide trend, Mr. Bocus. And I didn't believe it. And then someone sent it to me and I was like, whoa, I didn't even check. But what happened was when I tweeted it and got thousands of retweets, tons of very high profile accounts and people had been in the show had retweeted it and posted as well, Rip Mr. Bocus. So that resulted in a massive trend. So I do appreciate it. It's very nice. Sometimes the world is pretty good, huh? Greg Wessel says, any thoughts on Brandon Herrera forcing a runoff against Tony Gonzalez in Texas District 23? Let's go, Brandon. I dig it. Brandon's great. Got to have him on the show again. We can talk about it. Very excited. Hope he wins. All right. Joe Spinella says, clearly you never heard of the Patriot Act. That bills can be easily modified in the dead of night. Massey knows this. Paul knows this. So is there a risk that after they've passed the bill will be modified in a very bad way and wouldn't have to be passed again after being amended?
No, it would have to, go through the procedure again. I think the risk here is that the current bill could go to a committee like Commerce, and Commerce could derail the effort. They could poison pill it. They could put all sorts of stuff in it. And then obviously, I think Charlie Kirk said this, we reserve the right to revoke our support, right? If it did turn into something horrible, everyone would sound the alarm. I'd be the first one out there. But we are on a pathway of this bill in this current state clearing, and then it is set in stone, and it would take an act of Congress to amend it, and it would all be public. We'd all be able to track it, and you'd be able to call your congressman if you don't like it.
I don't understand this argument for people who are like, oh no, they're coming for our free speech. And I was like, China's? They're coming for China's free speech in our country with a massive multinational corporation that is telling our young people to sterilize themselves?
Yeah.
Well, okay, I guess.
Well, I mean, if the platform is, if they do divest, it lives on in its exact current state. There isn't even a material change made to the algorithm required. And so the transfer, there's all sorts of things. Enough. Yeah, there's all sorts of things that absolutely should change about TikTok's algorithm. This bill doesn't even do that. So your First Amendment is absolutely protected.
Crazy. All right. D99 says, Supersonic's eyes are red and only changed from black in the old classic Sprite games. The blue-eyed screenshot was from a trailer 6 months ago. Oh, interesting. Well, we were talking about how Goku in Dragon Ball Z is, in order to become powerful, he becomes Aryan. His hair turns blonde and his eyes turn blue, and then that signifies he has tremendous power. Yeah. And then Sonic the Hedgehog turns gold when he gets the Chaos Emeralds. But apparently his eyes don't turn blue. All right. Tim Brackett says, no Cuomo. Thanks, Tim, for standing up for integrity in media. Hey, look, man. There are some people that I think deserve opportunities to apologize. And as much as I dislike Cuomo, I would be if he came out and outright admitted everything he did and said it was wrong, I might actually be like, okay, well, you have to allow people to walk towards the light. If you don't, they'll walk towards darkness. But as far as I know, he's not done that. He's just being given all these great positions and he's being given a path to redemption without apology or acceptance of it or responsibility. So not a fan of any of that. If he came out and was like, here's what CNN did, blew the whistle and exposed it. If he was like, CNN made me do the quarantine thing and here's what they said to me and here's why I did it and I was under contract so I couldn't say anything, I'd be like, okay, well, it's a good thing that he's talking about all this, addressing it and exposing it, but he's not doing that. So for now, he's just another lying scumbag. Let's go. Derek Jacobson says, bills of, what is this? Attainder are explicitly prohibited twice in the Constitution. This bill is illegal and will be blocked by the courts.
Yeah, so this is one we're hearing all the time, and it's simply not true. So bill of attainder essentially means that a bill cannot target and penalize a particular company or individual. So it can be used as a weapon, right? But there is nothing in bill of attainder in these statutes that blocks the ability to regulate a particular entity. This is a regulation. This isn't a punishment. And it's clear as day. That is the reason it was able to clear out 50-0 unanimous vote. Bill of attainder has been what has been blocking every single one of these bills. These congressmen know that, and it cleared 50-0 out of Energy and Commerce, and then this resounding 300 plus vote victory on the House floor. So obviously, bill of attainder is not an issue. It's that distinction, right? Penalization versus regulation. And
you know what I think happens? I think once TikTok realized they were on the chopping block, they immediately started promoting. This is my assumption of what is likely. I don't know exactly what happened, but I'd imagine that they started promoting a bunch of young, more right-leaning personalities so that they would build attachment to the platform and then start defending it. So now you have people who are like, I've got hundreds of thousands of followers on this platform. I don't want to get banned. Like, I use this platform. What the, you know?
Yeah. Well, and what's really interesting, we were talking about this earlier, there's no way to verify the follower count, that it's actually authentic. There is no way to verify the view count. You don't even know if it's a 1-to-1 view ratio, right? There's no transparency to that. One view could actually equal 10. All of those views could be in Singapore. They could be in any other country, right? Like, there is no way to verify any of this. And so you have this right-wing influencer contingent that really believes they're doing good work, spreading the word. But there is no proof that this is actually meaningfully improving the situation on the ground.
So, the way I kind of gauge the power of a platform is real world interactions. And I get a lot of people saying, oh, I watch you on Facebook. That's crazy to me. Because I'm like, wow, we just passively post segments on Facebook. We don't really, and they're very censorious. But I meet a lot of people when I'm out and they'll be like, oh, I'm a big fan. I get your posts on Facebook all the time. I was like, wow. I've gotten people saying Twitter/X only a couple of times, but YouTube is the obvious and most dominant. When I track numbers to, I'll say it like this. The most valuable platform is iTunes. A view on iTunes is probably I believe podcast views are probably the most legitimate rating system in all of media. And it's apparent because of your sales metrics. So when we do sponsor spots on YouTube, it's like 10% of what iTunes pulls in. And I'm like, now how is that possible? If we're getting 200,000 on a YouTube clip with a promo, but we're only selling a tenth of what we sell on iTunes. Well, the reality is YouTube views are weak. Facebook views are extremely weak. Twitter views are extremely weak. I don't know about TikTok because we've never sold sponsor spots on it. But you sell a sponsor spot on a podcast and you sell 10 times as much. So if we did hey, buy coffee here, the overwhelming majority of people are coming from the podcast, which likely is indicative of the people who are watching on podcasts are actual human beings. They're actual unique human beings who are listening and watching the show, where YouTube, you probably have a lot of, I clicked it and then I clicked out. So it counts as a view. They hung around, they didn't really pay attention. Whereas people who go on a podcast actually end up listening to the whole thing. So like for instance, we get way more views on YouTube for Timcast IRL, but the revenue generated is, we get more views on YouTube. And so it's not proportional in terms of views, but based on the CPM, the Timcast IRL ads are way more than we could ever do on YouTube. I think it has to do with viewership. So in my view, what I know about TikTok, I would make the assumption that most of the views are fake. And so the smartest thing China could do, or I should say these companies, is they're like, look, Trump supporters are advocating for our removal. Quick, give them 1 million followers. Yeah. Then they'll absolutely say, no, don't ban it. No, don't.
Yeah.
You can't even prove the followers are real.
Yeah. And I think that is more than likely what we're seeing. It's not that big of a leap. And I mean, really look at the community organizing efforts, like what is attributed to TikTok. If you have all of these, great conservative influencers posting these like get out the vote videos, like who's really going out there saying, I was told to vote in my congressional race by this TikTok influencer? In all likelihood, even if the views are real, they're probably going to a non-American English-speaking country. That's the most likely solution here because it just doesn't match up to what we're seeing in the real world. There would be more cultural impact, as we've talked about throughout the show.
This is a great super chat from Mike Hillier. He says, I remember Tim yelling VPNs would be blocked by this bill yesterday till he was shown the bill by PSA Sitch. I do not watch PSA Sitch. He showed me nothing. What actually happened was Thomas Massey posted an out-of-context excerpt and I trusted Thomas Massie, and I said, based on this reading, I tweeted, this would ban Telegram and VPNs. I'm like, that sounds terrible. So I pulled the bill up and went, holy crap, that's not true. That's not in the bill. Now I'm kind of pissed off that I tweeted. Maybe I should go and delete that tweet. I wasn't even thinking about it. It would not block VPNs. That's only based off of the limited tweet by Thomas Massie, which did not provide actual context to anybody who follows him. So I'm very pissed off about that. And then I read it and I was like, wait. It has to be a platform controlled by a foreign adversary, which is defined by Congress, which is one of 4 countries. You have to be able to create an account, log in, post content, share content, and others have to be able to log in and view that content. Okay, so VPNs are not subject to this. And it's basically and I have to have 1 million users. Okay, so I was like, what is this? Why are all of these people going online and screaming and bashing their faces on the wall and lying about this? I don't get it.
It's what information warfare looks like, right? Yep. Like we're living through one of the probably greatest battles we've experienced on the internet. The fight for the longevity of this platform. China's waging a good fight. And
why is Trump now opposed to banning TikTok?
Well, I think the political moment is very complicated for him. There's a lot of business interest in preserving it. And I think that it is, like, from his POV, probably the right position. Make it Biden's problem. Maybe you get all the TikTok voters that
Biden will sign the bill, and then you will get a wave of Gen Z saying Biden screwed us over and destroyed us.
Yeah, and it's like you can't really fault him. He's out of power. Even if he was in support of it, he wouldn't be able to sign it. So like, why would you take a politically controversial stance? You really can't blame him for it. I wish he was in support of it. I thought his 2020 executive order was great, but things keep moving, and hopefully we get a TikTok ban here.
Yeah, he's trying to make sure that young people just don't come out for Biden.
Yeah, it's totally
all right. We'll just grab one last super chat. Steve McGee says, you're a rad cat dad. Thanks for taking care of Bocus. Had a dog that left early. You gave him a great life. Mr. Bocus was the 1% of kitties. And he was very lucky. Rescued, and unfortunately, as I've said a million times, his kidneys were underdeveloped. They were very small. And so they were working overtime, basically doing 2 times the work, which resulted in a shortened lifespan. So, we were surprised that he was getting sick because cats actually have really good kidneys. But older cats usually die of renal failure. And so when we found out that he was having renal failure, and we were like, how is this possible? He was like 5 years, he was 4 years old when, 4.5. And they said they're very small. He's underdeveloped. Was he a rescue? It was like, yeah. And they're like, and he's also got a heart problem. So we tried everything. We gave him stem cells. And they even said that he could do a kidney transplant. What they do is a cat that is going to be put down because nobody wants to adopt it or whatever, they will take one of its kidneys and give it to your cat, and you must adopt that cat. So you save that cat, and it saves your cat, and then you're responsible for both. And I said, done. And they said, Mr. Bocus' heart will fail. He can't handle a transplant. And so they were like, give him medication, see how long he lasts. And that was it. All right, everybody. Well, we're going to go to the members only show. You don't want to miss it. It's over at timcast.com. It's going to be up in a couple of minutes. So go to timcast.com, click join us, become a member. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to this channel and tell your friends about it. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL everywhere. You can follow me personally at Timcast. What do you got? What are you shouting out over here?
Yeah, follow me on X, Real J Denton, and follow our work at the Heritage Foundation. We're doing a lot on artificial intelligence. I've got a new op-ed out with Compact talking about that content moderation regime we talked about. So there'll be a lot more coming in the next few weeks from us.
Shout out to Mr. Bocus. Lived a long, great life, and he went too soon. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at Carter Banks everywhere. Also, if you go to trashhouserecords.com, it'll direct you to the YouTube channel. In the interim, working on a new song. Very excited about that. Chris Carr.
Nice. Be sure to check out scanner.com. That's scnr.com. We're covering the news every day with our awesome Rockstar staff of reporters. You can follow me on Twitter at ChrisCarr17, and you can also follow us at Timcast News on Twitter. Check it out.
Thanks, John, and shout out to everyone at the Heritage Foundation. When we were there previously in the past, they were really accommodating. Carter was there with me as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I appreciate the time. Yeah. Pardon me, Mr. Denton. I don't know. Pardon me. Sorry.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Anyways, cheers. I'm Serge.com. See you guys later.
All right. We'll see you all over at timcast.com in a minute. Thanks for hanging out.